Single, double, or triple stacked orders? That's the question in today's podcast. And in today, we're going to be talking about all three of these categories of orders and just how much they impact us as gig workers. Last week on the Dash with Ash, I spoke to you lovelies about future-proofing and how much gig workers can actually make a future for themselves. Well, to be honest, double-stacked orders are a great way of future-proofing for yourself because they actually allow you to get more money in advance so that you don't have to work so hard later. If you're new to the gig world, well, our terminology for one customer, two customer, or three customers are either a single stack, a double stack, or a triple stacked order. And when I first started off being an Uber Eats delivery driver, it was single stacked. When I first started off being a DoorDash driver, it was single stacked. And even though I've only ever had individual orders with skipped dishes, they also offer double-stacked customers. Hell, even things like Instacart doing grocery shopping allows for 2 to 3 customers at once. So is double and triple stacked orders just the way that we have to go? Or do we have other options when it comes to being a gig worker? Myself personally, I favoritize double-stacked orders, but in 2 different scenarios. The first way that will make me grab a double-stacked order faster than any other order is if it's 2 customers at the same restaurant. It's easy. I go to one place and I drop off in 2 places. The other way is if I'm going to be picking up at 2 restaurants, but the drop-off is for 1 customer. Either one of these methods of double-stacked orders are the first ones I'm going to grab in a heartbeat. Now, even though I will always prefer dealing with 1 customer at a time, another way to get me prompted to take a double-stacked order more than just a single individual client at a time is something like an Uber Eats Quest. You see, a Quest is a prompting offer for a bonus top-up pay based on the amount of deliveries that you get done. And if you're doing a double stack, that counts as 2 deliveries. Even if it's for 1 customer at 2 restaurants, but it's the 1 customer drop-off, companies like Uber Eats count that as a double stacked. So if I get a double stacked with a pay incentive of an Uber Eats Quest, you can rest assured that even if the double stacked order isn't completely in my favor, I'm 100% going to take it. Now, in case you're wondering, the majority of my orders that I accept are actually single stacked orders. And the reason for that is not because I'm trying to be the negative Nancy and not take double stacked orders and be complicated. It's because simply markets has shifted in my area. And so because of this, there's a lot less double stacked orders that I can even take, let alone being offered. But if we're talking about making money, my favorite is double-stacked orders. Now, you would think that something like a triple-stacked order would be a better way for you to make money, but in my eyes, it's 100% not. So here's my issue when it comes to triple-stacked orders. The word triple is triple the amount of overwhelmingness that we need to deal with that we shouldn't have to. Now, the benefit of a triple stacked order is about 90% of the time, 2 customers are at 1 restaurant pickup, and the last customer is at another restaurant pickup. But as well, 90% of the time, they are all individually have their own separate drop-offs. It's not as common for you to go to 2 restaurants for 1 customer plus 1 restaurant for 1 customer and have that listed as a triple stacked order. If that was the case scenario, I'd probably be more inclined to want to take triple stacked orders. But I find, in my own personal opinion, every time I go and do a triple stacked order, there's always a customer contacting me. You see, I've always been the type of woman that's always down for some small talk. If you want to talk, let's talk. But in my experience, when it comes to triple stacked orders, the ones that want to talk are the ones that have always had the short end of the stick. So they've struggled with the most worst experiences that they could have, and I happen to get them on a night that they got a triple stacked order. And 9 out of 10 times, the reason why they're contacting me is because their food got canceled, the wait time was too long, or I was their 7th driver that got ordered out, and now they want their food first. But I've made a YouTube video about this. Whether you pay for priority access or not, it's not based on me determining the route to get to you. It's based on these gig companies and who they're going to route first. So regardless if I get a quest or not with an incentive top-up pay, I much rather just ignore triple stacked orders to begin with. But there's still the rare triple stacked orders that I would fulfill, but you're talking about a triple stacked order that's for 3 customers, that's at least $26, $27, and that's because triple stacked orders typically take 1 hour to complete, and because of my hassle, and normally the inconvenience that I go through with a triple stacked order, I will not settle for something like $20 or $21 for a triple stacked order. I will decline that and wait for something just a little bit better before I accept it. Don't get me wrong though. If it's something like 3 or 4 kilometers for a triple stacked order for $21, then that's something I can gladly take. There is one kind of double stacked order that really gets under the skin of gig workers, and it does for myself included. It's the double stacked order where one customer is a high tipping customer and the other customer is no tip whatsoever. And these gig companies will throw them together because it balances out the amounts that we're going to be making because we don't know who's tipping what. And then the non-tip customer gets fulfilled, sometimes even before the customer who does tip. And that's because, again, we don't pick the order. It's these companies that do pick the order that we have to follow. So if that's the case scenario, a double stacked order really doesn't seem in the benefit for a customer because the one that's often tipping at all is the one that's waiting the longest. And then you have the other combination of double stacked orders that make drivers like myself very happy. It's the double stacked order where it's generous offers, generous tips, and it's coming from both ends of your customers. And that's how you can future-proof yourself. If you take a nice, generous, double-stacked order, regardless if it's going to take you over 30 minutes to fulfill, sometimes the generosity that can come from 2 customers versus just 1 makes a big difference to the fact that you don't have to stay out as late because you've made more money, or you don't have to do as many single-stacked orders because your double helped fulfill your quota. Double-stacked orders can be a huge principle, but all you have to do is hit the right one. I think when it comes to single, double, or triple stacked orders, there's no wrong answer on which one to do. That's the best part about being an independent contractor, an independent gig worker, self-employed, or whatever you want to call it, is you have the independent right to choose which one works for you. In my opinion, triple stack does not work for me, but double and single does. And so because of that, I can honestly say, I'll keep up with the 2 of them as long as I keep going. Preferably never for groceries, just 1 at a time for me. But either way, when it comes to single, double, or triple stacked orders, we each get to pick what we want to do. Next week on The Dash with Ash, I'm going to be speaking to you lovelies about Instacart and just why I truly dislike them as a company and bear the whole truth. I'll catch you lovelies in the next episode.